LinkedIn. It is Tuesday, so I am here with my heart, and I'm so excited to have Heidi with me. And so let us know, whoever's joining us, where you're coming in from. Would love to. Oh, we've got someone from Michigan already, so that's awesome. So we love it when people start coming in and we find out what part of the country you're from. I set this up so at East Coast it's like lunchtime. On West Coast it's coffee, and so half hour. Though we may go a little longer because we have that special message at the end. But I'm super stoked to have Heidi with me. So Heidi, tell us about yourself for those folks that don't know you.
Hey, Jen. Yeah, thank you so much for having me today. I'm so pumped to be here. I was really looking forward to this. So I am a 30-year B2B sales veteran. I know I probably look like I started when I was about 3, but no, I'm actually maybe a little bit older than I look. And, have always been, a diversity, equity, and inclusion champion, always really been focused on trying to mentor and sponsor other emerging sales talent and other women in the workplace. And just grateful that I have an opportunity to do it in a more formal way now.
That's awesome. And, that's a message I totally get behind. So we've got a lot of folks joining us from different places. We've got Mo in St. Pete. We've got Kristen over in the UK.
Oh, New Hampshire. Yay, that's where I am.
Oh, yeah. And then then I have another person from actual London, right? And then I've got Anthony over in North Carolina, San Francisco. So hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us. So Heidi, now that it's more formalized, which I love, right? Tell us, why did you like Girls Who Sell? Tell me about that.
Yeah, so the origin story of Girls Who Sell is a bit interesting. As I mentioned, I'd always wanted to mentor young women, particularly women in sales, because 30 years ago when I entered into B2B sales, if you think it's male dominated now, let me tell you, I was definitely always one of or the only woman in the room, and frequently am still today. And so, during the pandemic and after the death of both of my parents in November 2019, I started down a very intentional personal journey of really trying to figure out what I wanted my impact to be in the world. And I came across, and you're very familiar with this article, the Harvard Business Review article that was talking about how women are, have the innate sales personalities or personalities to be successful in B2B sales, and of course are better at sales. And we've got some stats I know on that. And it begged the question of, well, then if that's the case, why are not more women not in sales, right? Mm-hmm. What is preventing women from getting into sales? And so I really started to do some research, and literally in late October, Girls Who Sell was born, and it's our focus and mission. Actually, I consider us more than just a company. I literally feel like Girls Who Sell is a movement. And not only are we trying to close the gender gap in B2B sales, but a big part of our corporate mission is to develop the largest, most diverse pipeline of early stage female talent. Because I don't think it's enough just to get more women into sales. We need to get more diverse women into sales.
I 100% agree with that. I mean, when I was looking at the job stats for December, and, all of the jobs were lost to women. But when you looked further down the article, you learned that actually it was, women of color that were most impacted. And the fact that they led with the line, the women lost the jobs, sort of, it bothered me, because it's like, there you are with the half truth, right? And it's a problem. It's a problem not recognizing that, okay, women in general, yes, we need to get more women into sales, but particularly, giving diverse opportunities for women, all women, is so important. I think it's a great mission and I love it. And it's a mission I've been on too, with my 20 plus years in sales myself. Now I'm dating myself, but I am free. Like, I've been that only woman in the room, and I've been the one who's been talked down to, or, my voice never carrying quite the same weight as any man in the room, at different times in my career. So it's, having more women is so important. And I think there was a stat I saw that, until you have 30% of people who are like you in the room, that you don't necessarily even feel comfortable. You feel like an outsider.
Yeah, I agree with that. And those numbers, I saw those numbers as well, and they were just dismal, right? Like, and if you look at the 35% of women who are in B2B sales right now, and that's just in general, forget management, forget, an industry sector, but women of color or other diverse communities of individuals that identify as women are in low single digit numbers, right? So yeah, super, super dismal. But I don't know what you think, Jen, but my personal opinion is that, one, I think we have to begin to change the corporate culture, and we need to begin to dispel some of the negative perception of sales, particularly amongst women. I think sales today, it's still today, which is so amazing to me, it's positioned as a bad carrying, quota centric, commission driven boys club, right? Where there's no place for women at the table, unless you act like a man, which I'm not a big fan of, and frankly have never done and will never do, because I feel like my feminine traits and my innate and unique abilities as a woman is actually what makes me successful. So I'm not a big fan of trying to sell like a man. I'm much more supportive of using our strengths as women. But that's not what sales is, right? And I particularly B2B sales, right? And so I really think that collectively, and what you're doing is so important, Jen, is to start dispelling these images. I mean, sales today is, we solve business problems, right? We build relationships, we build trust, we are able to affect change and design solutions to business problems. And, and we have the ability to control our own destiny and have financial independence. And so I just think we've got to just, start breaking that down. Not to mention the way, and maybe we can get into this a little bit more, but just the way that the culture internally, but the way that sales is also positioned externally in the market, through recruiting and all of that, I think is super problematic as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think you touched on a number of good points. There's the culture internally and the perception of it. And then there's the culture externally and the perception of it, right? There's the job descriptions, but it's more than that. It's the marketing out there in the world of what sales is, right? Like, if we're less trusted than like politicians, and the trust factor for salespeople is at like 3%, then women looking at it will look at it and go, why would I want to sign up for something where I'm less trusted than a politician? So it's really changing the perception and the future of what sales is, to, I think, really get more women. Additionally, being intentional about getting women, about visiting colleges, about doing events that appeal to younger women to get them into sales. Do you have any insights on that?
Yeah, I am so glad you brought that up, and I'd love to unpack that a little bit more because I think it's really problematic. I mean, as you know, one thing that Girls Who Sell is doing is we are getting younger in the pipeline. So we're working with, college aged, whether they're students. I mean, listen, you don't even really need to go to college necessarily to be in sales and be successful, right? So, and I think that's a good thing because college is not necessarily for everybody. And that opportunity doesn't present itself for everybody, particularly some diverse communities. So I think that that's really important. And we're also working for high schools. But I think you touched on something super, super important is that is the way sales is advertised. And we've started to do some analysis of that and to start looking at recruiting ads for sales. And just recruiting ads in general for opportunities that are trying to target women. And the language that is used in those ads, it's not gender neutral. It's like, hey, come and kill it and, earn money and commission. And women generally are not attracted to that. They want to be a part of a team. They want to be able to affect change. They want to build relationships. They want to create solutions. And so if you're trying to attract women, it's not going to work. In fact, I found a stat that you might find interesting, Jen, that only 38% of job ads, I'm going to read it so I get it right. Only 38% of job ads use gender neutral wording, despite the fact that those gender neutral ads significantly outperform others, particularly those positions that are trying to attract women. And so maybe it's time for companies to start doing an audit. And and then, you touched on, then you have to be intentional about wanting to hire women in sales, making it a priority, being sure that you are opening opportunities to women as well as men, and eliminate hiring bias and gender bias in the workplace.
Yeah, no, that's 100% correct. I mean, I think though the perception, right? So there's the job ads, right? But that always be closing.
Yeah.
Like perception where, the way I look at it is that always be caring, always be helping. And that's what that's what a true salesperson does. Always be servicing, always be trying to bring the solutions to the table. And if that perception would change, I think we would get more applicants besides the language. Additionally, there was and I looked for it before the episode, but there was a stat that over 50% of women by the age of 30 actually leave tech. And, so when you get the women there, right, the portion of women that you do get there, right, creating an inclusive environment and being prepared to really allow them to be themselves is what will retain them. And having more women, right, will bring on more women. So it's like, there are so many different facets to this, I think, that need to, it's like there's so many ways to dig into this.
Yeah, I mean, we at Girls Who Sell can, and and other companies that are really focused on this, we can begin to intentionally build the pipeline and do our jobs in terms of positioning sales as, a viable and respectable career option for women, for young women. But unless we fix the culture, they're not going to stay, right? So unless we start breaking down and create diverse and environments and safe environments for women to be able to grow and excel in, then getting them there is only one part of the job, right?
Yeah.
And I think you touched on another really important point, is that, women, I think, are intimidated to apply. I mean, I have seen some stats that men, when they look at the job description, they're like, I meet 4 out of 10, hey, 40% is good in baseball, right? Like, I'll apply. Whereas women, we feel we're not enough. I see a lot of comments of, one, we have to have confidence, and we have to know that we're enough. So I absolutely agree with that. But we have to apply, whether all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, and whether we meet 10 out of 10, because unless we have more women applying, then we won't have the opportunity to hire more women.
Yeah, no, 100%. Lydia says it's time for HR to practice what they preach, and that's totally the truth.
Truth.
We are not old or dated. We are seasoned and experienced. We rock. I'm not sure who that comment is from, but that's totally true. It's a triad rule: 3 works or 30%. Jen,
yeah,
that's true. Yeah. Those of us in leadership need to be more proactive in lifting up other women up and help be the change. That is true as well. Throughout my career, there have been women leaders who have been part of the organization and that I've worked in. And it always seems like, there's that competition of there only being one seat. It's only, I think, over the last 5 years or so where I think women leaders have been a little bit more inclusive. I mean, do you feel like that's the case as well?
Yeah, I mean, coming up the executive leadership pipeline, I have had some phenomenal women mentors and leaders and bosses, but I've also, in all honesty, found that women aren't always so kind to each other and not necessarily as supportive, and perhaps that is because we have been put into such a competitive environment that, well, there's only one seat at the table, so what woman is gonna get that? So as we just, hopefully we can just break that down, and but as more women are taking leadership positions, not only sales. I mean, the other thing that I think is really interesting, Jen, I'd love your perspective on this as well, is the buyer pool is changing. So who our client and decision makers are changing. So as women are also making their way into leadership positions and decision-making positions and influencer positions on the client and buying side, I think that also needs to drive change in the demographics and the sales side as well, right? Because I think we need to mirror our ideal client and our buyer group, right?
I think in some cases, I mean, there's value in this diversity of thought, even if all of my clients were all men, right? The fact that different people coming together, bringing different ideas together, has value regardless of the target market or the target particular audience, because each person brings to the table their own experiences and their own thoughts and ideas, and that has value. And there's stats out there that shows that it has value and it drives more profitability. And
yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, it was good. I agree with that 100%. But I also, I don't know. And I don't know that I even have any, hardcore data to back this up. But I have seen that in general, women tend to be less hardcore in terms of their approach to selling, and women tend to have an ability to build trust and to build relationships versus and focus more on the relationship than on the sale. And so those that focus more on the sale, it's like, do they really care about me? Are they really trying to find the best solution for me? Or are they just trying to sell me a whatever, insert X, Y, Z, right? A widget or a service or whatever. And so I think that, I think particularly women selling to men, and women selling to women, we do have the ability to build trust. And I think people not only buy from people they like, but people buy from people they trust.
Well, yeah. And there are studies out there that, a woman's ability to read a room is different than a man's. And that's just a fact. And that's no different on a Zoom. So this is an excellent point here that, the communities of women have even more statistics. It's probably why they've started 70% of all new businesses. And that's entirely true. The statistics for women of color are really bad. Significantly worse than women as a whole. And there's no doubt about that. Corporate culture changes from the top down. Unless you get the old guys on board, it won't have any long-term impact. I agree with that, but I think there are leaders leading the way, and that's why I was so excited to share that the special message that I have at the end of this episode, because it's from a male leader who I believe, is sort of leading the way, and so I'm super stoked about that. But yeah, I mean, corporate culture does come from the top down, but it's felt from the bottom up, right? And if it's felt from the bottom up, and that just like buyer expectations have changed during this pandemic, so have employees' expectations. Mm-hmm. That's a reality. I mean, the expectations of women going into the workforce are going to be different. They want psychological safety. They want to be heard. And there are opportunities out there. And there are enlightened leaders who will give them that opportunity to have a voice and to be part of something. Because, I mean, people in general want to be part of something bigger than themselves.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I think especially, we're finding that in particular with the, younger generation of women and men that we're working with, the girls who sell, who they're voting with their wallet. They're watching very closely how companies are handling the pandemic, and I think that I think that diversity, inclusion, and equity has hit the boardroom, right, and it's getting some attention, but it needs to be more than just a box checking exercise. And so I agree with whoever it was that said that it has to be a top down initiative, but it also has to be very intentional, and you have to take action. Recruiting needs to interview as many women as for a certain position as they do men, and it just has to be intentional, or else it's not going to happen. You're not going to be able to affect long-term change, and that has to be supported from the top down, but also the bottom up to drive culture change long term.
Yeah, no, agreed. So there's a comment here: we need a new girls club instead of the old boys. And so I have a thought on this. When I was planning the next ladies happy hour, I thought to myself, the guys went from the golf course to the boardroom. And so what can women do? So I thought that building your tribe, of women, that's the one thing that I think during the pandemic that I found such value in. That ability to network and build just the number of connections with women like yourself, right? Mm-hmm. And find ways to elevate each other. Just like me having you on, you sharing the post, me writing an article, us lifting each other up. I think that as we go into this post-pandemic life, right? Or when we get out to go in public again. And we think of it as taking our tribes back to work, that can have some power. So I'm excited about that. We've got a lot of comments here, so let's touch on some of these comments. We need more leaders like Heidi so women can be encouraged to follow the footsteps. We are still living in a men's world. We are.
But can I just say one thing about that? I agree. And there's so many great women leaders out there too. But I am a big proponent too of that we need our male allies too, right? And because you're right, it still is a men's world. And a lot of these senior executive positions are still dominated by men. So in order for not only do women have to lift each other up, but I think men, and we're starting to see it, like this video you're going to show, and I see posts on LinkedIn all the time. It makes me so excited to see these men who are like, yes, one, admitting that women outperform their male counterparts in sales and say, hey, my best salespeople are women. I want to hire more of them. And so I think it is really important, though, for us to recognize and acknowledge our male allies, and because we're better together. And it's going to take a tribe, right, to change this. And I think I've said that 1,000 times last week and maybe already 1,000 times this week.
Yeah, and we've got so many great comments here. I'm going to have to go back after the event and make sure that I touch on all these great comments. This one here, it's not that women are a risk, but the parental leave is not valued. This morning at the Bloomberg Equality Summit, the fact that many European countries have requirements for fathers to take parental leave is a key factor in success. We do not have the national policy on this.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah, and that's proven out, with the pandemic now for sure, is that, women are working double time, right? We're still expected to not only work, but take on a lot of the unpaid household responsibilities. And so, yeah, that's 100. That is a big issue.
Yeah.
We need to dismantle antiquated work structures and start over, right?
Yeah, no, and we do. Here's another comment here. The only change is that people are not legally allowed to ask at your plans for a family, but the discrimination is real and used to justification to deny women. That may be illegal, but you know what? People ask. People ask me. I was just job hunting recently. People ask me what I was going to do with my children. People ask me that. So, legal or not, that's the reality of the situation. So
yeah, and I actually have a different issue now too, which is interesting. Is I raised 3 children, so face that as I was going through, and I do think it impacted during those key years some leadership opportunities that I feel I was qualified for that perhaps I was not given the opportunity to take. But now it's even a different situation. My kids are grown and out of the house, but now I'm considered too old. So ageism is also, a big thing that women are dealing with as well. And I don't know. I think there was an earlier comment about leveraging our wisdom and our expertise, and yeah, I agree with that as well.
Well, we've got some more great comments here, but we're almost out of time. This goes so fast. Heidi's inspiring, one of the few in this world. I'm so glad to meet you on amazing adventures, saving the animals, helping kids. Great adventure. People don't know how amazing you are and all the good things you have done. Well done for being you. That's awesome.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. You know what? We're going to have to go through these comments and figure out who's commented the most, because I can't figure it out right now. So, but I appreciate all the comments. I love a real conversation. So we'll have to, the book, Upward, we'll definitely have to look through these comments and figure out who gets it. But I so appreciate all the engagement that we've had. So before I go into some of the other things like what's coming up next and my special message, right? why don't you tell me like 3 takeaways that you have from this conversation that you'd like people to know?
Yeah. So I'm gonna break it into 3 different groups, if that's okay. I'm gonna do it super quick. So one is companies. All right. Any companies, people from companies out there. One, we talked about the advertising. I think it's time to do an audit and look at your recruiting ads. 2, do a real assessment, not just a box checking exercise, but of possible gender bias and pay equity, in the workplace, and then become intentional about hiring not just female but diverse female candidates. For women, apply. Okay. Don't worry about checking all the boxes, right? It's just go out and apply and have confidence in your ability to be successful and to do the job. Men have been doing this for hundreds of generations, and it's time for us to claim our space and our time. And I would really highly recommend to not only, apply for jobs, but go for any leadership positions, and also find a mentor or a sponsor within your company or outside of your company who can help you along the way and be a sounding board. And then, since Girls Who Sell works with high schools and colleges, I just want to say it's really important in the educational system to support us in positioning sales as a viable career choice. So build it into your curriculum, whether it's part of marketing or a separate, major, whatever it is, certification program, but we need to get the message out there.
Yeah, well, excellent points. And thank you so much for sharing. And thank you for joining me. So let me tell you about next week, and then I'm going to share this awesome message. So next week, I've got Travis King, who's going to be talking about communities. And then I also have Ladies Happy Hour, which is about finding your tribe. And I think this is so relevant to the conversation we just had. And I have an amazing panel of 8 women, all bringing their insights next Wednesday at 7 p.m. So I'm going to put that link in the comments. So let me tell you about this message. I was on Twitter. And there I am, just scrolling on Twitter. I'm having a bored moment, and I'm just looking around when I see someone post a video. And I went to go check out this video, and I got goosebumps, and I was touched. And it was about how women in sales can run circles around him. That we have so many skills and so many talents. I don't know if it was emotional or grateful, or it was just, I was so touched. So Daryl Prale from Vanilla Soft recorded this video. So I'm going to wrap it up with that. But thank you, everyone. We're going to go through the comments and make sure we reply to everyone, but additionally to make sure that we count it up for the book, which we didn't even get a chance to talk about. We're going to have to schedule another episode just for the book. But I think awesome. This is a great conversation, and I very much appreciate everybody. Thank you. So, message from Daryl.
When I look back on history, there's been some amazing women in sales. What comes to mind is, the founder of Avon. There's a woman who not only understood the value of relationships, but she understood how to sell value, and she made a dynasty. So why is she so notable? Well, she's notable because she was the exception. Now, that doesn't make sense to me. She shouldn't be the exception. She should be the norm. When I look at my sales skills personally, most women can sell circles around me. They're far more relational. They're better at picking up on body language and social cues. That's me, at least. When I look at my sales team as a sales leader, the women consistently do well, really well. I view the women on my team as a competitive advantage, and I protect them. I view them as a resource, not just as great people, but as people who can help me achieve my goals. I like to hire women in sales. Do you? Are you making it a point to do that? It's 2021. Now's the time to change. Let's hire more women in sales. Let's support them. Let's make them successful. After all, if they succeed, you succeed. My name is Daryl Prell. I'm the CEO here at VanillaSoft. I'll talk to you later.